Now that we've got the anchor trolley set up, well, we got to get an anchor on there. So let's talk about some pros and cons and a few things you need to know. Stay tuned. The first thing we need to do is select the type of anchor you're going to put on there. And you've got basically three kinds, and I've got two right here I'm going to show you. But the mushroom kind is the one I don't recommend. It just doesn't grab on anything. One version is this right here that has the opening claws and has a cap that fits down over the top of them. And if that cap is down, it's going to grab on the bottom. The other kind, which is the kind I prefer, is simpler. It's just the claw anchor, and it's going to fall down, it's going to grip, and I think that this is more reliable. So if you're going to make a choice, if you don't have a preference, I would say get the claw anchor. Now the next thing we have to do is create the rig to attach the anchor through the trolley to the kayak. So here's my setup. Like I said, I use a claw anchor, and you're going to attach whatever rope you use to the bottom of the anchor, and then you're going to run it up through this hole right here. But the mistake you don't want to make is to run the cord through the hole. Instead, you need to attach it with a cable tie. And here's why. If you get hung up, if the anchor gets hung up, you want the cable tie to be able to break loose and then have the anchor come up like this. There's a similar situation if you decide to go with one of these anchors. Moving up to the next thing is you need a way to control your line. And I took Steve Sharon of the Adventure Outdoors channel suggestion, and I got one of these dive reels. And I really think that they're great because the line is very, very strong, and it's easy to roll this back on when you're pulling up your anchor. I typically don't bother to use the crank handle because there's a lot of leverage to get the line back on and pull the anchor loose. Oh, by the way, don't use a dog leash thing that's going to pull it in automatically. They're going to eventually rust out and break, so don't even bother with that. Then from the dive reel, or whatever you're using to hold your line, we go to a float, and this is just a pool noodle on a piece of PVC, and I'll show you how to make this. And then you need the line. Now the line needs to be 2 feet longer than the longest distance from your anchor cleat to either the front or back of your kayak, whichever is longer. Here's what I mean. My anchor cleat is way up here. The line's going to go from the anchor cleat through the ring of the trolley, and then if the anchor trolley is all the way here in the front, I want another 2 feet beyond that so the float will float on the water and not get tangled up in my anchor trolley. So the next thing we need to do is measure that distance and ensure we cut the right size rope. Sorry, got a lot of hacks going on here in the shop. But anyway, the next step is we need to customize the float. And what you're going to get is a 3/4 inch piece of PVC, and then you're going to cut your float to where there is overhang on both sides. So just kind of looking at that, I think maybe right there will be good. Then drill a hole in both ends of the PVC. That's what we're going to run the rope through. And then we're going to stuff the PVC into the pool noodle. Take either end, it doesn't really matter, and we're going to thread that through these holes and tie it down and run it over. Before I tie it down, I want to make sure I have enough slack here at this end to attach to my dive reel. So I've got it through the first hole. I'll tie this off, run it through the other one, and then tie it to the dive reel. So it's tied to the dive reel. Now here's a new dive reel, and they come with this guide right down here at the bottom, but I find that gets in the way. So I'm going to take a hacksaw and cut that off because I just kind of wrap it like that when I'm pulling my anchor back up. All done. Cut that piece off on the bottom here, and now I'm ready to hook this up to the kayak. The typical rookie mistake people will make when hooking up their anchor line to their trolley is they're going to tie it right to the ring. And here's why you don't want to do that. Say your kayak spins in the current. Well, this ring is going to go underneath your boat, and now how are you going to grab it to retrieve the anchor? That's why the rope goes through the ring and up to this all-important cleat that we talked about before. Now, given the length, I can extend this all the way to the end of my kayak because I've measured that rope properly, and I know if I've got to cut it loose, it'll float free and the pool noodle will allow me to come back and recover it. So there you go. Those are the basics of setting up your kayak anchor. Now that you've got the anchor trolley and the anchor, well, you're ready to start doing other mods on top of the kayak.